So this video is going to show you how to make a ocarina or clay whistle. All right, so notice there is going to be a mouthpiece that's there and a windway, okay? And then you have some tone holes, right? And when you blow into it, it should sound something like, okay, like that. Now, to be honest, it's not easy to make a whistle. We're going to try our best. We're going to try this first. If it fails, which it can happen because then it's challenging, you can then turn it into a rattle. Right, so a rattle, you can decorate it how you want. This one's turned into an animal. It does have to have holes poked in the bottom. Here's another example, is ornamental. Holes poked in the bottom. Here's another example, okay. All right, first I'm going to show you how to make the clay whistle. All right, you do have paper at your desk to kind of help you get an idea. So we're going to start by making 2 hollow forms, double pinch pots. We'll make a mouthpiece, we'll attach them. We'll try and make the windway. This is the trickiest part of trying to make your noise. Then we'll test it and see if it makes sound. We want it so that the wind hits a ramp, making this music go out and some going in, okay? And then the last thing we'll do on both of them is decorate, right? Some tools that you'll need slip, you'll need a needle tool, you'll need a wooden modeling tool, which can be plastic or wood, shaped with a flat edge and a curved edge, and you'll need 2 popsicle sticks, okay? All right, you'll also need clay, right, like this. Right, and the first thing you want to do, this should be about the size of a baseball or softball, is you're going to roll it in a circle. Actually, before that, you want to squish it and wedge it a few times. So that's where you take your palms, push in, right, and do that a few times. And this gets rid of any cracks or air bubbles. And now you'll roll it into a circle. Notice when you're doing this that your canvas is on the tan side. The white side, that's slippery, should be on the bottom. And that's so your clay doesn't stick to the other side. It won't stick to the tan side. All right, so again, trying to go for a ball. You can also shape it in your palms if it's easier. If there's any cracks, you want to smooth them out, right? So I'll smooth them with my thumb. Okay, and then the last thing we're gonna do is take the wire cutter. I will do this part for you because I only have 1 or 2 of these, and I wanna make sure we're being safe. I'm gonna cut this in half for you, like that. Right, and now we're ready to make a hollow form. Okay, so this is called kind of pinch pot. So to do this, you're gonna hold this in one palm, take your thumb, stick it into the middle, like that. And now you're gonna just pinch the sides and turn. So I pinch, turn, pinch, turn, pinch, turn. You want the walls or your coil bot to be about the same size or thickness all the way around, right? And notice that the walls are up, it's not flat, right? So I'm not pinching and turning it like this. I'm keeping it so that it stays rounded. Okay. And I would not go too thin. You want this to stay about 1 inch or a 1/2 inch in thickness. So please do not go thinner than this, or your clay flute will not work, or it could collapse. Okay, so you go like that. Do the same thing to the other side. Take your thumb, stick it in the middle, then pinch, turn, pinch, turn, pinch, turn. So do that all the way around. Pinch, turn. Okay, and you can always reshape it so it looks, you know, like a sphere. All right, so now we're ready to join these. So to join them, you might have a tool that looks like this to score with. If you don't have that, take your needle tool and just make crisscrosses on both sides. And again, you want to make texture on both sides because it acts like Velcro. That texture will lock them into place. So I'm going to make a bunch of texture. You're then going to take your slip, squeeze out the extra water, and you're just going to dab it. Okay, you do not want too much water. You just want a little bit so that sticks together. Now we're going to go ahead and form them. And it's important, again, that this is hollow. Okay, so I'm pushing them together. I'm not squishing them, right? I do not want to lose the hollow form we just created. Okay, all right, so now take your modeling tool, the plastic tool. We want to get rid of the evidence that we just cut this in half. So you want to drag this tool across that seam to smooth it on out. Okay, it helps to drag it perpendicularly, so just across it. All right, so we are now ready to make our mouthpiece. So with extra clay, you want a small ball. Okay, you're gonna roll it into a circle, like that. And then all you're gonna do is pinch this side and the other side. It needs to become a rectangle or a square. You could also pinch and tap it, roll it, pinch, tap it, so forth, so that becomes, again, more rectangular or square. Alrighty. Now this shouldn't be too long, so We want it just the size kind of like of a square, not really a rectangle. So if it's more of a rectangle shape, we are going to cut it off. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. All right, so the next thing you're going to do now is take your popsicle stick. Okay, you're going to push this in the middle of your mouthpiece. It should go all the way through like that. And then we're going to push this into our sphere. Now, where the sphere goes or where the mouthpiece goes is really important. It should go towards the top, not the middle. Okay, so if you can see, it's towards the top here. And even if you look on this one, right, the mouthpiece is like flat in line with that. It's not in the middle, right? So I'm going to stick it towards the top here, right? And then I'm going to pull it out a little bit because we have to scratch it so that's attached. So now I'm going to make crisscrosses on both sides, so here, and then I'm also scratching this side. I'm also going to get a little bit of slip, squeeze out the extra water. I'm going to put some moisture there and stick it together. Okay. All right, so now for joining it, it's really important you grab your modeling tool and you're going to drag that clay, pushing that clay onto the sphere. Okay, dragging the clay onto the sphere all the way around. And this is making sure it's airtight, right? So that when we blow into our whistle, the air isn't getting lost somewhere else, or it won't make a sound. Okay, and then I'll take my sponge and I'm just going to smooth that out a little bit. Okay, now before we make our windway, what I want you to do, I'm just going to make sure this is flat too, is you notice that this is still kind of rounded, and again, you need it kind of flat. I don't know if you can see that there. So whatever side that your mouthpiece is closest to, right? This mouthpiece is far away from this side, so I'm not going to mess with that, but it's closer to this side. So that means this side I want to flatten a little bit. So I'm just going to lightly drop it. I'm not slamming it down, right? We don't want to lose that hollow space we created or it won't make a sound. So I'm lightly tapping it here to flatten it. And then you want to check it so you can see that this is now in line. I might do it just one more time here. Okay. All right, so now that is nice and flat. And so now I'm ready to make my windway. I want to make sure this is still shaped well. So to make my windway, I'm going to make sure this is free moving. You're going to take your other popsicle stick and we're going to press it in so that it touches this popsicle stick. So we're going to make a small little incision here. And notice that one cut has to be straight, the other cut has to be slanted, okay? And that slant is what directs the air into your whistle and out to make that sound, okay? So my first cut is at the edge of the sphere, so almost right where I attached it. I'm going to put it in vertically. I'm gonna make 2 more vertical cuts. Again, these are really small. And my last incision is going to go at a ramp or a slant towards this other popsicle stick. So this popsicle stick is going towards that one at an angle. I like to hold this one, and this popsicle stick's gonna end up touching this one. That's how you know how deep to go. So I'm going in at a slant, and I have to cut it a little bit on the sides, and I should be able to just flick that out, okay? And you can tell that you did right because you should be able to see that your popsicle stick is there, right? And now we can smooth this out. I'm just going to smooth this here. And then you will need to test this. So I'm first just making sure this is a good ramp. To test it, you're going to take this popsicle stick out. When you look into here, we should be able to see the inside. If you notice in mine, you can't see the inside. That means I'm going to take my popsicle stick and I'm going to really gently push here so that I can see the hollow. So there you can now see like the opening to the inside of my whistle right there. You see our ramp, okay? And then you see like the mouthpiece. There shouldn't be anything obstructing it. So if I put the popsicle stick in a few times, I want to make sure that there's no clay obstructing the airway. So this might take a few times to finesse. And then we're going to test it. We're testing. You do need a strong exhale. So you're going to take the popsicle stick out. You're going to press this up to your mouth, and then you're going to exhale. So your lips should be pressed against along here. Because the clay is wet, you may not want to test it. If that's the case, get paper towel, rip a small piece of opening in it. You can put this here like that and then test it out. So if it doesn't make a sound, you're gonna have to test again. Okay, so I'll test again. And you might have to push the sides closer a little bit. That's the sound you want. Not, you want this sound. You are now ready to start decorating your flute or your clay whistle. So you'll have the choice. I recommend decorating the top part, so this top, the area where there is not a windway. Okay, this is the bottom of your piece. All right, so now you have the choice of maybe putting an animal on it, all right, turning it into something else, or maybe you want to make it ornamental. All right, keep in mind, if you are trying to put a thick piece of clay on here, it has to be hollow. So let's say, for example, that I want to turn mine into a bird. Then I should take a piece of clay. I will roll it into the shape I need. So maybe I'm making like the head of this bird. And then I will need to hollow it out. So anything that is, I would say, about 2 inches thick, and there are rulers for you to know, right? So this is about 2 inches. It needs to be hollowed out. If it's 1 inch, it should be all right. So to hollow it out, you could either press your thumb into it, or you could take a loop tool and carve it out. All right, but basically any thick piece of clay will break in the kiln. So I'll hollow this out. Okay, so you can see it's hollow. Now I can attach it. So to attach, I will just scratch where it goes, scratch on both sides, put a little bit of moisture or slip. Let me scratch one more time. I'm gonna stick it down. You will need to join it. And then also for hollow forms, you will need to poke a hole in it because trapped air will break your artwork. It will explode. So it's important that you, again, poke a hole somewhere. Okay. Smoothing it out. All right, and then I'm gonna choose an area maybe under the beak that's not noticeable for, again, the air to escape. Okay, now I can make a beak for my bird. I'm gonna scratch where it goes. I'll attach it. I need to press that clay onto the other piece of clay so that's literally connected. Okay. And then I could even draw into the sides to make like the arms. Or the wings. Okay, and I'm gonna actually poke a hole on the side where the eyes go. Okay, so now I've made my ocarina. So I attached pieces of clay, right? Attached about 4 or 5 pieces. Okay, attach the eyes, mouth, wings. Okay, so now when you let it dry, this can collapse. The clay is not dry, so it could move on you. So it's really important you actually put the popsicle stick back in so to let it dry. Okay, that way it'll keep it sound. All right, and so now I'm gonna let it dry like this. Also, before we let it dry, you wanna make sure your name is on the bottom, so you're gonna scratch your first and last name so that someone else doesn't mistake it as their own, and so that I know who it belongs to. All right, put your section number, home number on, okay? So again, bottom has name, section number, home number, popsicle stick is on the inside, okay? And then you have at least, I would say, 4 to 5 pieces of clay scratched and attached for decoration, all right? If your whistle did not work, you have the option of turning yours into a rattle. So I want to show you what you do for that. So let's say my whistle did not work. What I can do is I could remove the popsicle stick, and I'm just going to cut off. You could even embrace, actually. You could embrace that. It looks like whistle, doesn't sound like whistle, or you could turn it into a rattle, which in that case, I'm going to cut off the mouthpiece. And then I am also going to cut open this and put in some clay spheres. So for rattles to work, you need to make, I would say, 5 to 8 teeny tiny clay spheres. Okay, so really small. Let them air dry a little bit. So just let them sit out to dry for like 5 minutes so that they get a little firm. They could be different sizes, some smaller than others. Small ones make a really light sound. So these have small beads, very light, but has a lot of them. Larger beads make louder sounds. It's like this one is louder, so it's this one. But yeah, I would say 6 maybe to 8. Okay, and then the other thing you want to do is once these have sat to dry for a little bit, you're going to roll them inside of a paper towel. This paper towel is going to burn away when I put it in the kiln. So I'm going to roll these all up inside of here. Okay. All right, and now I'm going to open my musical instrument. So I can take a plastic knife or a needle tool. I'm just going to cut it in half. Like that. Okay, and you can see if it looks like there's not enough of a hollow space in there, you might have to reshape it a little bit, but you're just cutting it open. Yeah, see that? So you're cutting it open there. And then I'm going to take this napkin with all the clay beads, I'm going to put it in the middle, and now I'm going to scratch both sides. I'll put some slip, so just add some moisture, stick it together, and then we needed to, again, kind of get rid of the evidence of where we just cut our project open. All right, so I'm going to take the modeling tool, I'm going to smooth that out. And then I'm going to take the sponge and also smooth it out. And then the very last thing, it's very, very important that you do this, is you have to add holes on the bottom or your artwork will break because the air will get trapped. So I recommend doing 6 holes, and you want to feel that it goes into the hollow space, okay? So you want to push it in pretty far, and you should feel where it gets into the hollow spot, okay? And do it a few times, like I poke a hole and then wiggle it a little bit, okay? So that they widen and that the air will definitely escape. Okay, all right, last thing, again, rewrite your first and last name. Make sure you're scratching it fairly deep just so you can see it, but not so deep where your artwork's cut in half. Section number, homeroom number, all right, and now you're ready to put it on the drying rack to dry.